So we're going to be talking about peace talks and really bring about an understanding of what's happening on the planet and why we need to talk about humanity and guarding our humanity. And I'll be doing oracle throws, believe it or not, because I'm not able to keep people's attention. I'll be very blunt if I just go straight into what's going on the planet. But once we see the oracle cards and the messages that come about it, we start understanding that we are being called to do our best to stand in our humanity and to be aware of what you may not think. And so I'm going to wait for people to come on. I hope you guys had a wonderful time with your families and being aware of what yesterday means, kind of transmuting it to something positive and bringing about some consciousness to our ability to get together. And I'm just again waiting for people to come on. So we're going to be talking about peace talks and peace within ourselves, peace within the planet, our ability to remote heal, our willingness to remote heal, and our willingness to not put our head in the sand thinking that's a spiritual high road. It's not. I think there was a time and place for that. Oh yes, I had a good time with my family, my twin and my son, and we had a wonderful fake turkey because we are vegetarians. And yeah, it was really beautiful. Thank you, Rachel. It's very sweet of you. Thank you for loving the live. If you could share the live, that would be awesome as well. Many of us are being shadow banned, that are stepping our toes outside the fringes of acceptability, because you've got people out there that instead of just scrolling decide to report us, and this is happening to a lot of people. It's happening to Nick Cage stunt double. That's her call. Her name is Shay, but Nick Cage stunt double is going through that garbage, and she does lives, and glad to hear. Yeah. Thank you. So there's a lot we're going to talk about today. I'm going to take an hour of your time if you're willing. And we're going to talk about, we're going to do an oracle reading right off the bat. And then we're going to talk about peace talks and what that means and what's happening and us being able to make decisions. A lot of people, I've always been concerned with this. I'm going to tell you how when I used to have a magazine, an art magazine called Bacor, to run wild and rebel. That's literally what it means in Latin. And so this art magazine, I would interview a lot of artists in LA County, Los Angeles, Pasadena, Malibu, Marina Del Rey, that whole crowd. And art was a real hustle. And I remember talking to people, because I used to do the Chalk It Up Festival in Pasadena, and I would ask people, what do you think? Oh, I'm not educated in art. People who were afraid to even have an opinion about art. So I understand when people don't have an opinion about more complex concepts. But just like a 3-year-old knows when there's a good painting and a bad painting, I'm not joking. Kids, 8 years old, you can't BS them at all. If the painting rocks, they'll go right up to it and love it. In any museum in the world. It doesn't matter what country they're from, how they've been raised. They don't have a filtering system of that fear of making a decision. And just like kids can make a decision on what is good art and what is bad art, and that is a personal journey, so too would a child know the difference between what's going on in some parts of the world. In fact, if you showed any of the things that are happening right now in the Middle East, in Africa, a good child, a sweet soul, which all children are born sweet, would start sobbing. So even then, see, there's no convoluted confusion, and I can't make a decision until I'm educated. Educated on what? Violence is violence, and it's not acceptable in any form from anybody. And so I am asking you to be what you were born to be, what you've always had the ability to do, is remote heal. And that means in your conscious meditation, when you're doing a conscious meditation, because there are multiple types of meditation. Some meditations are just to empty the mind. Some meditations are to look at the monkey mind run amok so you can see what's going on in your internal dialogue. Some meditation, your somatic body has to move. Some meditation are open-eyed or closed-eyed. Yes? Some meditation are guided. There's multiple meditations, and in one of them, I'm asking you to remote heal the planet. And people would say, well, that's bullshit. That's toxic spiritual bullshit. Well, there's not much else we can do right now. And I know that people have actually healed themselves from inoperable cancers by simply meditating. So with that said, it isn't bullshit, because it's something we can do. It's something we were born to do. It's something that we've always been able to do, except the 1%, the powers that be, watch the movie The Secret with Rhonda Burns, did not want us to continue feeling powerful. So with that said, what I want you to do is, hi Jen, hi everybody. So any comments before I pull an oracle card? I'm going to be pulling from hang on, okay, because I've got 2 oracle decks I pulled out willy-nilly. One's called The Medicine Heart by Alana Fairchild. The Medicine Heart. And it can be, some of her oracles are really lengthy, but well worth it. Well worth it. And I try to read it slow so you guys can savor the words. Yeah, you know what? I'm being called to do this deck. So it's the Medicine Heart Oracle deck. Hi, Tony. So I'd like you guys to give your... Oh, driving, I'm listening. Oh, how cool is that? I hope it's a beautiful drive. So, yeah. So go ahead and I'm going to start shuffling the cards. All right. And when you feel the energy, okay, you're going to tell me to pick from the bottom, middle, but give me like 20, 30 seconds. Okay, I'm going to start shuffling. And we're going to go from the bottom, middle, or top. Bottom, middle, or top. Okay, I'll be quiet. Whenever you feel it, just bottom, just pick. Middle. Okay, I'm going to wait. Middle. Bottom. I'm waiting. Middle. Okay, I'm going middle. I just need 3 out of 4. Okay, well, fuck. Wow. Mother, it's 44, which is 8. 8 in Kabbalah numerology is paying karma. Mother of Star Nations, it's called. So I will be reading from that. It's a beautiful woman with a feather and a monkey wrapping his arms around her. It's called Mother of Star Nations 44, the number 44. Bear with me while I look for it. Okay, bear with me. Let me see where the heck that... Oh, wow, it's almost the last card in the deck. Bloody hell, it is the last card in the deck. Okay, well, that's going to be an interesting read. All right, ready? Go ahead and, if you don't mind, I'd like you to close your eyes and listen with your body as well as your ears. All right, let's begin. 44, Mother of Star Nation. In the world of illusion, one can forget about the presence and power of the legions of spiritual beings actively, lovingly offering divine protection and guidance to accomplish every ambition of the heart. Honor the potency and the legitimacy of your spiritual ancestry. When the ways of the world threatens to evoke despair, recall the unsurpassable capacity of the spiritual dimension. There is an ancient divine legacy of love that you have been born to manifest in this world. Claim the relevance and significance of your spirituality. Let it support you as you continue to apply yourself towards awakening. An exquisite legacy of grace shall be the holy outcome, generating considerable spiritual benefits for all. Did you guys hear that? Wow. Let me continue, because this was just the beginning. From the ancient peoples indigenous to Australia to the Egyptians, the indigenous people of the Americas, including the Mayas, Inca, and Aztecs, and the ancients of China, India, the Middle East, and Africa, The connection between human evolution and the higher guiding consciousness of star beings is acknowledged. The interpretation of that bond between the stars and humanity varies considerably depending on our individual human belief. For our purpose of divine feminine shamanic practice, the consciousness of the stars holds ancient knowledge that can support humankind in evolving spiritually, in learning how to integrate the higher understanding of a spiritual perspective into how we live our lives as human beings. We can honor the stars as divine feminine wisdom teachings. The star system of Sirius was revered as a divine being, Soptet, in ancient Egypt, and heralded as a form of the Egyptian goddess Isis, associated with sacred queenship, spiritual renewal and rebirth, transformational magic, love, initiation, and healing. The Pleiades are seen as feminine through the astromyth of Native American Lakota, the ancient Greeks, and numerous First Nation Australian language groups such as the Wiradjuri people. The latter two identifying them as 7 sisters. In one version of the story, the indigenous Australian Bodogo people of northwestern Victoria described the constellation as a group of women drumming for dancing use. One might compare that to the Western mystery tradition's understanding of the Pleiades as a group of spiritual elders beings watching over the younger souls actively engaging on their earthly spiritual path. The spiritual guardians that dwell as stars are not separate from humanity, but rather intertwined with humankind spiritually and genetically. Whilst science can tell us that we are literally made of stardust, our hearts are born with an innate, intuitive recognition of our divine ancestry. For some, that will mean that we have literally evolved from certain star systems through numerous incarnations of the soul until we eventually made our way into human form to share our spiritual legacy on this planet. For others, the sense of wonder when gazing at the stars may elicit an invisible tug of sacred connection that bonds us to human ancestors who gazed at the same stellar objects and, sensing the vitality and intelligence therein, received subtle spiritual dispensation of cosmic support. No matter how it is sensed and interpreted and experienced in each cell open to the wisdom of star elders, there is a benefit to be generated from all creatures here on earth, for all life in all dimensions, through honoring humanity's enduring spiritual regards for the stars. A Lakota legend tells the story of a bear in pursuit of 7 maidens. The women fell to their knees, praying for divine protection. The ground beneath them rose high into the air, lifting them out of harm's way, and they became the 7 stars of the Pleiades. The oracle speaks of the spiritual protection possible when one has confidence in one's spiritual connection, of courageous prayer leading to elevation beyond harm, and an increase in your spiritual light that can guide others. Protection of you individually benefits many more than solely yourself. To recognize this can help you reframe the idea of self-care to simply care that which brings benefit to a life. Native oral stories of the Cree traces their heritage to the stars, who transformed from spirits to become humans living on earth. The belief that ancestral lineages extend to the Pleiades is found in a numerous of indigenous American nations, including Hopi, Dakota, and Cherokee. The mother of star nations is the cosmic divine mother, manifesting through the soul devoted to the collective spiritual rebirth of awakening humanity. Such a soul is of the stars and of the earth, a divine human spiritual being. The oracle speaks of affirmations of spiritual ancestry, of the legitimacy of that which ignites the soul with the warmth, fire, and boldness born of love. To birth a star nation is to become inwardly and sacredly rebellious against the conformity-induced fear perpetuated by mainstream consciousness that seeks to deaden and enslave. I'm going to repeat that line. To birth a star nation is to become inwardly and sacredly rebellious against the conformity, inducing fear, perpetuated by mainstream consciousness that seeks to deaden and enslave rather than vitalize and free the soul. The antidote to nefarious agendas is spiritual awakening. Did you get that? Let me say it again. The antidote to nefarious agenda is spiritual awakening. The oracle speaks of turning within to find a truth that cannot be accurately perceived in the shifting shadows of the outer world, and to not allow anyone or anything derail you from that which spiritually illuminates your heart. The light of the stars will reveal the way through even the darkest night. Chimpanzee soul medicine is a call to light, like lightheartedness, playful presence, light as a symbol of knowledge and an open mind. The childlike state rather than the childish state. The childlike state rather than the childish state, whereby the soul can be curious, investigative, exploratory, is a fertile ground for creative evolution. Sometimes stepping back from the way things seem to be and moving, imagining, and playing with possibilities can be the trigger for inspired resolution to become clear to you. Such possibilities exist. Chimps are known for innovation. Relax. Be willing to believe in the possibility of manifesting something better than what has been. Chimps are not solitary creatures, and every chimpanzee has a particular role to play in social organization. Embracing our various roles and recognizing how important they are to the greater workings of the team to which we belong is part of the spiritual teaching of chimpanzee. We are all in this together, even though you may not always feel that your role is important as that of someone else. Rest assured that you are valuable and needed. And that's what many of you need to understand. You matter. Every single one of you out there listening to this matters. And many of you have incredible knowledge and wisdom from your incarnations as star seeds. And yet you are afraid to release it onto the world stage because you don't think you're ready. And so this childlike, innocent approach may be your ally as you breach through your own constraints. You know what I mean? Let's continue. The energies that you bring to your relationship in the ways that are authentic by your soul genuinely makes a difference. The oracle speaks of a time when relationships are of particularly importance to your soul healing and spiritual awakening. There may be a need to learn how to allow yourself to be supported by others. Ask for help. Share your visions, share your troubles, share your stuff, and let people assist you. It doesn't make you weak. It doesn't make you whiny. It gives the opportunity for others to step into their light, to reach outside of their own comfort zone to help someone in need, which could be you. Working together for a common good, particularly if you have been more inclined to lone wolf tendencies in the past. And the lone wolf tendency is not something to berate. Many of us are lone wolves. We prefer to be lone wolves, but we also have to realize that even lone wolves join their pack. And they have to. They need it. Red magnolias hold the yin magnetic quality of attraction, wealth, love, peace, good fortune, and joy. If you didn't hear that, that's the red magnolia. The oracle speaks of long-standing and far-reaching legacies that will stand the test of time, of that within you which may seem delicate and fragile, but is actually incredibly strong and able to survive all manners of tests and challenges. Red magnolia is the blood of life and the confidence, courage, and capacity to act on your spiritual understandings and circulate their rarefied stellar light of your spirit through your soul into your body and out through the ecosystems of life on this planet, including human society. In a fierce, embodied, passionate, loving, and vital way, you are a light bearer You are a light bearer, excuse me. In China, legend tells of the emperor bestowing magnolia as a gift to his faithful subjects as a mark of gratitude, regard, and respect. Magnolia can be considered a sign from spirit that your devotion, your perseverance over many lifetimes is acknowledged, and that your loyalty to love as your guiding soul value will not lead you astray. The white feather has become an almost universal symbol of the spiritual dimension, a sacred representation of the presence of grace in the world. The oracle augurs spiritual intervention. Apply yourself to your healing whilst keeping your mind and heart open to the miraculous power of spiritual grace. That was beautiful. I hope this helped. Yes, this will be posted on my YouTube, I promise. I've been live for, I don't know actually, to be honest with you. So, for many of you, the Pleiades, I remember my husband, he was born in 1962, the year of the water tiger. And at 10 years old, you gotta understand, this is 1972. He's 10 years old telling everyone in his family he's from the Pleiades. Okay, there was none of this. No one was talking about this. No one. I'm not kidding. He was not exposed to books like this. He lived in San Francisco on Haight-Ashbury, off the Haight-Ashbury, in Cole Street, called Cole Valley. No one was talking this, okay? So when you feel connected to something, trust it. It's not some random bullshit delusion. It's a real connection to home, okay? And so when it was an amazing message, I agree. Can someone grub up food to me? Lol. Zale needs food. Childlike. So yes, let me see what else. So Pleiades for me is very close too. Also, there is a planet, because there's multiple planets in the Pleiades system, and one of the planets, it's run by it's a matriarchal system, and 80% are women, 20% are men. It must be hog heaven for men, let me tell you. But these women don't need. It's like an Amazonian tribe, okay? And I remember as a little girl, I was drawing Amazons, when I was like 9, 10 years old, 11 years old. I would draw Amazons all the time. And then I remember, I don't know if you guys know this, but Amazons used to lop off their left breast to become better archers, which is actually what got me to create my breast cancer book for lovers, an erotic pillow book for breast cancer survivors and their lovers. Because I was reading a lot about young women having double mastectomies. Young women, wondering what to say on a date, when to reveal the reveal. But anyway, there's so much power in the matriarchal and patriarchal when it is of the light. And there's been an agenda. I was just talking to my son today, and he talked about it. I'm not going to say the agency because I don't want to get shut down, okay? Because, I don't know, they've got keywords here. But there's an agency, you know which one it is. It's the one that starts shit all over the world. And then I had an agenda to make the feminine groups, the feminist groups start hating men. And it was an agenda. It has been an agenda. So, and it's funny, I never knew that, by the way. I just found out from my son, who was doing some research for, I don't know why, but he found that out. And he told me this morning, I was like, holy shit. And for years, I've been telling women to back off their hate of men. Back off, back the hell off. Because men are not the problem. Human beings and bullshit, it's not Arabic people, it's not French people, it's not Jewish people, it's not Chinese people, it's assholes. It's that simple. And they embody every costume on the spectrum. And that includes gender. And so as the feminines, we who are the feminines, some are broken, some are divine, we need to really kind of reassess what we feel for our masculines, even our broken masculines, and to kind of get more balance with that. Because just like they were showing pregnant women smoking cigarettes, do you remember those ads? Do you guys ever? And when I say remember, I don't mean I was born during that time, because I wasn't. But if you've ever seen those ads, you'll see that they had ads with pregnant women smoking. What the hell, right? So just remember, okay, that we're coming out of all of these forced indoctrinations from not just this incarnation, but multiple incarnations on this particular system of planet Earth and this particular system, that's been put in place way, way beyond your imaginations, maybe 25 to, I'd say, 3,000 years ago in recorded time, for all I know. Any shares on anything? Believe me, you will not offend me if you say something that you think doesn't mean anything in this particular live, because everything's connected. I'm just kidding. Cool. What I want, I can't DM on here. You would have to text me, but I will. So what was I going to tell you? The next thing I wanted to talk about is your ability to remote heal. That was the point. To remote heal any situation, because one of the greatest frustrations of a human being that is embodied and wrapped up, and within that is this beautiful soul, a soul that knows, that it has those powers, but yet it feels powerless. So yeah, if you can't send money, and believe me, be careful where you send money, by the way, but if you can't send aid in the way that is in the material 3D, method, then take 10 minutes and mindfully put some healing on the planet, and in particular, like Gaza. I would say Gaza, those people really need help. Congo, I saw some scenes from Congo, and the reason why we're not seeing as many scenes from Congo, most of them don't have phones. I hope you guys know that, right? It's not as bad. It's a different bad. It's a different evil, but it's an evil that is no less very successful at making people suffer. And these people in the Congo don't even have electricity, so how in the hell are they going to have a cell phone, right? So I want you to just take the time to know that you are powerful. You're badasses. And I'm going to bring you back to a group of wonderful people. I wish I could give them credit on this live, and I don't remember who they were, but there was wildfires going on in Australia. I don't know if you remember, to the point where koala bears and people were trying to save koala bears because they were getting burnt, and God knows other indigenous, native animals and people and land, and it was a wildfire that did not stop. And so this group decided to set up a meditation, and they gave every time zoned in the world, and it was a 10-minute conscious meditation on bringing rain to Australia. Do you know that it fucking rained within 24 hours? It rained. So you are all rainmakers, all of you. And just because you're not going to be part of a group that is doing one major push to a certain part of the world that you choose to concentrate on, doesn't mean that there, out of 100, 200, 300 million people that are aware, doesn't mean that there aren't a million people that are staggered right as soon as you're done with the meditation. Somebody else is taking it. So a monk in Nepal, maybe a French chick in her little Paris apartment is now, as soon as that monk stopped, she took on a meditation of focusing her attention on a particular part of the world that really needs our help, right? So what I mean, it'll be a staggered event. It's like passing the baton. And you got to kind of like visualize that it's going to be passed to the next person once you get up from your meditation. So we are remote healers. We are healers. I usually, when I'm talking to a client, I call myself a healing facilitator. Why? Because it gives it more of an authentic distance so that my ego is not involved in that. I'm very careful with that shit. But when it comes to remote healing and healing, yeah, we're like that powerful. You can do it. I can do it. There's no doubt about it. And it will make you feel powerful, and not in an egoic, weird way, but powerful in knowing that you have your influence and your energy and your focus has potency. That's what I mean by that. Because the worst thing you can feel is powerless. Like, what do I do? Like, I feel like worthless. Like I'm not worth a damn. Now, no, you are worth a lot. And that's one of the reasons why there's been agendas for the last 2,000 years. Again, watch the very beginning of Rhonda Byrd's The Secret. Her documentary, The Secret. Watch the very beginning. She talks about the Emerald Tablet. She talks about the 1%. Watch it. And you'll understand, okay, what I'm talking about. And this has been an agenda that started way before, but it also included Constantine, Emperor Constantine, and so forth. And again, Council of Nicaea. And so you can still believe in what you believe in, meaning you can still believe in Yeshua, and Buddha and Krishna, and of course, and still have this incredible reverence, and Allah and Muhammad. You can still have a reverence to these prophets, But what I love about what's happening for us who have been exposed to Christianity is Mary Magdalene, the sacred bride, is being brought back to her bridegroom. And that's beautiful. That's true. And why would we not want that for Yeshua? Why would we not want to honor both the divine twin race, the divine couple, right? So hang on, let me see what you guys are saying. I wanted to be an astronaut on my first dream. I've always felt like I was put on this planet as a joke. It's not a joke. You chose it. Could we organize group meditation weekly to heal them? We could. I remember it was horrible. It felt so bad for the animals. Yes, you remember that. So we could. I can't commit to weekly, but we could do it. But again, there's this idea that we can do it as a group. We could do it. We'll figure it out. I'll talk to Jen, because we do need on the group meditation. We definitely need a moderator, because sometimes we get these trolls that come in, and it's. I don't want it to turn into an ugly, situation. So I want to make sure. So if I do it, I'll do it at least once. But we might want to do it, actually. Let me think about that, because shit's happening really heavy right now in Gaza. It's really bad. So if you guys want to do it, let me know. Let's go ahead and vote on it right now. If you want to do it this weekend, Saturday or Sunday, I'm here for it. That'd be great. I don't mind moderating for this. That's awesome, Rachel. I appreciate that. So I want you guys to just tell me when you want to do it. Do you want to do it Saturday or Sunday? And then I'll put it in my book. I don't think I have Saturday. Okay, cool. So I will organize a time, and I'll post it on my board. I'm off Saturday. Okay, cool. All right. Is Saturday good? And then again, it's just to make sure that our humanity is felt within ourselves, and to protect humanity, and to vanquish evil, because there's something that's come up in the state of New York that's coming up. And I don't think I can, if you guys are on Discord, I'll talk to you about it. It's really weird what's going on. There's some stuff going on that's really weird. Here we go again. I can feel somebody asking, what does that have to do with twin flames? Our very existence, our day-to-day lives will not matter if we allow things to collapse. And the twin flame journey is an activation of spiritual awakening, spiritual potency, spiritual awareness, self-realization, not gaslighting downloads. And then once that happens, core systems that have held us in tight-fisted grips to subjugate our power. And it goes back to the witch hunts. It goes back to the Inquisition. It goes back to many of the incarnations that we've had. It goes back to divide and conquer genders, men against women. There's an agenda apparently still going on. I didn't know that. And my son, I just said that, brought it up to me, and I was in shock, in absolute shock, that money would be brought to divide and conquer and separate the genders, the male and female. This idea that we can't understand each other when we've been men and women before many, many times. All you have to do as a woman is tap into your masculine. And it doesn't, again, let's try to, divine masculine, divine feminine terms are earned. You just don't, you're not just that because you're spiritually aware. Many of us who foster ill towards another gender, all men cheat, that kind of thing. We got to stop that, because all it's doing is doing two things. One, it's manifesting what we're bringing to us, by the way, because it's a very visceral emotion. Men all cheat, And then the other one is that we're not honoring our masculine incarnations. And in some masculine incarnations, to be quite blunt with you, I was that horrible man. I was that broken masculine warrior. I wasn't, I was a warrior, and as a warrior, I was acting in all the toxic masculinity, okay? Just being honest. And I remember thinking back on some of these past lives going, why in the hell would I remember? That's horrible. Why would I remember that? But then I realized it was for me to get, to check myself. I also had some really, at least one toxic feminine energy incarnation where I was a high priestess, and I was not a nice person, okay? At all. And so in my case, that was one of the reasons why I was afraid of my power, because I used it and abused it to the levels that I can't even, I don't even want to share on live, okay? But trust me when I say that. So I'm not saying that's your story, but let's not act like, we don't have that in us, okay? And once you check yourself, you heal it. Once you heal it, you are delivered from the shackles of the subtle humming shame that is perpetually humming while you're not worth to win, while you're afraid to win, in life, or you're afraid to fail or whatever. Again, Dr. Joe Dispenza talks about something, not to that level. He was doing good work, but he was being tortured, and he was afraid of speaking publicly, and that was one of his blocks. And he had a download doing his dishes, I believe, and he realized, oh my God, this is the block I've had. This is from this life in ancient, it could have been Rome or Greece, I forgot exactly. But definitely 2,000-3,000 years ago is when it happened, and it had really messed him up. So it's really important that if you notice, I'm always, always, always telling you how powerful you are, and you think I'm kissing your ass. I don't know what you guys think. I don't even know why. Why do you think I'm saying that? Do you think it's so that you can stay on this live? Do you think I have that many people listening? No, not that many. So whoever is here listening, that is definitely your message, or else you wouldn't be here listening to it. So then what's your excuse in not stepping up and really speaking some truths, okay? Your truth, the truth, and doing the right thing, and doing the right thing because it's the right thing for your soul, and doing and saying the right thing because it's right. So, if the holidays come around and there's a cocktail party, why are we talking about someone's bathroom being decorated or shit that you and I both know you don't give a fuck about? Let's talk about real conversations. Let's start demanding that our political, spiritual, social muscles are activated, are exercised. And turn, I'm not saying start shit in a person's cocktail party or whatever get together. I'm saying, why are we allowing a mundane conversation to continue? And so that's how we start educating people. We talk about all kinds of things constantly here in this forum. And many of you are saying, well, I feel so lost because I'm around people who I can't talk about this stuff with. It's like, well, then change your crowd which is not easy to do, but believe me, I get that. Or change the conversation. It's like, change the conversation. Just say, yeah, I understand your teacher is whatever, and then bring it up to something else. Or your car needs a new engine and the prices of groceries, and change it to something else. Change it to something that really interests you, that you have a passion for. You have passion. And you may be surprised that some people might actually join in this beautiful conversation. And an awakening on spirituality, or what is the ascension. The ascension is talked about everywhere. There's all kinds of videos. Nostradamus is talked about now more than ever. He's been talked about for decades, forever. But now he's being talked about because we're getting close to certain things. And there's all kinds of people talking about all kinds of things. So, but they're not talking about it so who's listening to this and who's doing these videos? There's definitely people out there interested in your interests, that's for sure. So it's a matter of you being comfortable and being the first one to bring it up. I had a fear of using my abilities, but in past life, my people persecuted and killed me because of our belief. Yes, I hear that. That happens a lot. Love the wind chime on your background. Me too. Actually, this one is called Blue Moon. Can you imagine? It's called the Blue Moon. So it's from a French company. They make these really beautiful chimes. Good evening from London. It's good to see you. I was a target as a healer shaman. Sweetie, Rachel, we've all been targets. How did you get into witchcraft? No, I never got into witchcraft, actually, in this incarnation. I think I did a couple spells when I was 14, and it really boomeranged back, and I went, oh, okay, but not doing that shit again. So I was like, no, I think I was 15, but anyway, within, say, a week, I started witchcraft, you're just learning spells, and ended it within a week. It was done. I was like, okay, yeah, not a good idea. So you learn by doing. I'm not saying, it's kind of like the Ouija board. My first thing that was really intense in understanding spirits controlled items, like the Ouija board, was when I was 14. And that was I was like done with that. It was like, holy fuck, no. And then the witchcraft was next, spells, 15. That was done in a week. I was done. And then I just went into more of my spiritual reading, and that's when I started reading a lot more of Ruth Montgomery. At that point, I'd gone from Rampati Lobsang, all of his books, to Ruth Montgomery, and she talked about all kinds of incredible things that I don't know why no one knows of her anymore, but her name's Ruth Montgomery. You can look her up. And Rampa, like Rampa T. Lobsang, Lobsang. I'm starting to share that with some of you guys because I figure, what the hell, let's just start getting woke, awakened. What does it mean? I saw my twin today after a long time in his car. We're still no I don't know. I don't know. That's why I do readings, Darissa. I read for people. I've been a target as a divine feminine by my masculine karmic. It's a past life thing. Yeah. You know who had that problem was, if you read the book Jaguar Woman by Lynn Andrews, she writes about that. It was interesting. My grandfather elder in my past life told me I had to hide my strongest abilities for our survival. But that's no longer true. Ask your soul if it's no longer true. I was told I was a shaman daughter, taught in secret, then again, scammer psychic. My grandfather, So, you were a scammer psychic. Yeah, there are a lot of scammer psychics to this day who have not learned anything. So, they don't know anything. What can you do? They know there's definitely a talent there, right? But they abuse it. So what else was I going to tell you? So the point of this journey, right, that we're on right now, that we've actually volunteered on, isn't to just hide our talents and to like, keep telling ourselves that we need to do this, and I need to move to my new house, and I need new curtains on my windows, and I need to redecorate my bathroom before I can actually go public on my spiritual opinions. Like, don't bury yourself with duties just because you want to avoid doing anything. It was so much war. Lol, my past life was so violent. Yeah. Since healers were being killed and targeted during religious persecution. Some of the biggest persecution, Rachel, on that would have been during when the druids and druidesses were being hunted down like dogs. I remember that too. And that would have been in the Irish and the Celtic Isle, Celtic. Would have been around France, the Gauls, right into Britain, And yeah, that was happening where the church was hunting us like dogs. And again, it was a genocide. Genocides have always been around. The only difference is that we're seeing levels of deaths that we've never seen. I saw a report that it said that 10,000 people were killed in 1 year in Ukraine, and 10,000 people were killed in Gaza in 30 days. That should tell you something, okay? That should tell you something. So we need to keep doing what we're doing in our consciousness and our awareness. And what's happening in the Congo is it's a whole different type of system of genocide, but it's just as potent because there's disease and so forth. Yeah. And, it's weird, too. You got to understand, I've been aware of this stuff like that since Vietnam. When I was a kid, I lived in France. And we went to the Cannes Film Festival. My parents were working the Cannes Film Festival in the southern France. I don't know if you guys know what that is. But I remember seeing, I was 8, and I remember seeing documentary on the Vietnam War, and I was like absolutely gutted. I was destroyed. It haunted me for years. And you would say, why would my parents do that? Well, because I chose them as parents to do that, so that I could understand that in my own way I was privileged, and there were other people suffering, sufferings that really was not necessary, right? So we have to allow our children to be allowed to understand that there's a disparity on the world, and these young children that you're raising are star seeds. If you're a star seed, believe me, you're not bringing forth an earthling. You're bringing off a star seed. What does that mean? What's the difference? Well, star seeds have been around, incarnating in different planets way before they ever came into Earth, and we kind of jump in and out of Earth and into other incarnations in other planets. And Earthlings have only been incarnated on Earth. Okay, they've never had incarnations outside of Earth. Do you understand? That's the difference. And so it's a different type of consciousness. Okay. And you might even, no offense, I'm not trying to put anyone down, but you probably will see it in people's eyes. You'll see a difference, an emptiness, or a vacantness in the eyes. Whereas with star seeds, you'll see a fucking newborn with blazing eyes. You see what I'm saying? You'll see a 3-year-old with eyes that are just ancient. You know it. You can't make that up. Just because the body is a little 3-year-old toddler, little baby with the Botticelli face does not make the eyes any more powerful. Does that make sense? So you see it. You can see the difference in people's eyes. Believe me, sometimes I didn't want to go there. Forget it. Let's keep it there. But many of you are star seeds. Somebody asked me, is a twin flame all star seeds? My understanding, honestly, is for a twin flame to really be a twin flame, and there are certain character attributes that I see in twin flames. I'd say the majority are star seeds. Yes. And because what I hear from star seeds, women and men who have been hurt, is that they still want the best for their twin flame. That also is a mark of a true twin flame. They don't want any harm done on the twin flames. Children on the twin flames, the anger's there. Don't get me wrong. Twin flame star seeds are very passionate, there's a lot of passions that it just is ignited within them, and so they'll definitely be enraged, but it will come down, and it will come down back to Earth once they've exploded into their rage of being betrayed by their twin. But ultimately, they never want any harm to the twin, ultimately, ever. And so that's important to understand the difference. Okay, so that should tell you right there. And a starseed is much more advanced. I'm sorry, that's true. That's beautiful. The eyes tell a story. My twin's children's eyes are wow. Never would wish any harm towards my twin or his child. Exactly. Okay, so my people were indigenous, and my twin was a leader or general of an army that was killing us. I believe it. Yeah, it's sick. I have QHHC. My twin and I originated in Andromeda. He has a dream about the war in Laria. Yeah, a lot of people report back on many of the wars. So why do we come here? Why would we come down in, a lot of us were lured, to be honest. In the beginning of our fall not from grace, I wouldn't say, but from dimensional consciousness, is we were lured and brought and told a story that were lies. And if you read any of the Zachariah Stitchin books, you'll understand that the ego of a starseed is not more advanced. It's just that the difference between a starseed and being, what's the word? Hang on, I'm trying to find the word. There's like this lobotomy, this spiritual lobotomy, right? That happens when you're in 3D, right? You see that. They're completely closed off, right? So when you're a starseed, clearly you're not lobotomized. You're spiritually fully aware of everything, right? But the ego, the issues of the egoic framework can still be a problem. They're telling me to talk about Enlil. Enlil was one of the creators of the humans as we speak, as we know it, as we are. And again, it's time for you guys to start looking at a lot of things, because this idea that it's true, it's weird too, because I'm thinking out loud. I never really believed in Adam and Eve and the whole concept on that level, and I never believed in we came out of monkeys. Both of them felt stupid to me. I was like, I don't think these people know what the fuck they're talking about, either one of them. And then when I started reading, and my twin had turned me on to that in 2008, about Zachariah Stitchin's books, The 12th Planet, and it goes on and on and on, okay? I realized, oh my God, yeah, that makes sense. And before that, I've been reading books and listening to guys on, again, this is in the 70s, I would listen to guys who were Air Force pilots on AM radio at 3 o'clock in the morning in Pacific Palisades, California. And it was like in the 70s, late 70s, listening to these guys, putting their career on the line, talking about UFOs and abductions and all kinds of stuff, and also testings and so forth. Genetic testings on us, okay? On us as human beings. And so that was the first time I first listened to that, and I was about 15 years old. So what I'm going to say to you is that you got to like reframe everything. You're going to have to, and that for many people is a mind blower. It's like we go back to Plato's parable of the cave, and even Plato understood. Isn't that amazing how Plato did two things. He gave us two incredible nuggets of wisdom. One is he told us about the twin flame story. He told us about the truth of that. Actually, three. He told us about Atlantis, which we still haven't really found. He told us about Troy, which we did find in the 1800s. And then he told us about human consciousness and human, what is it called? Hang on. Hive mentality. In the way of people being afraid of knowing something that changes their whole understanding of their existence and of reality. And if you've ever listened to Plato's parable of the cave, I've told it on lives before, so I don't want to repeat myself, but the Plato's parable of the cave talks about how people will actually harm you or kill you rather than have you talk about reality. Let me show you a new way of reality. So that's something that you're going to have to understand. So in one sense, I'm telling you, yeah, go ahead and have these conversations with people. But again, I better bring your caution to this. Know your audience. Know your audience, because if you know that your audience is going to lose their minds, then you might as well not bring it up. You know what I mean? But you better know it. Don't assume it. And there comes the alarm. So any questions or comments? I know I've lost people already on that subject, but again, I'm not really interested. It's not these conversations are all about us understanding who we are, how powerful we are, where we really come from, why we've been subjugated, and how powerful we are as remote healers, and creating in our minds the new world. And it has to first come from that genetic testing and hybridization. Yes, exactly, Andromeda. So any questions or comments on that? I did a guided meditation, a hypnotherapy session with a client, and she saw herself on another planet, and she saw her hands, and her hands didn't have 5 fingers. So what I'm trying to say to you is that you've got to be willing to break away from what you've been taught is normal. And I don't know how many times I have to bring up The Matrix, the movie, but I think any bright human being will tell you it's a documentary. And it's really, really interesting how people still think that that's not possible. And yet, I remember 150 years ago, and I wasn't there clearly, but quantum physics would have never been looked at with any respect. And yet quantum physics, the concept of quantum physics, was written about in the Vedas 7 to 10,000 years ago, depending on who you believe. But at least 7,000 years ago, you've got the Bhagavad Gita, the Bhagavatam, all of them talking about different planets, quantum physics. What the fuck, right? I mean, so where do they learn this from? Who taught them this? And so when you look at Zachariah Stitchin's books, it's all about, it's literally, he's translating from the Sumerian tablets. That's it. He's not coming up with this. He's translating it. And by the way, people are now, scholars are saying he is one of the best translators. Actually, he is the best translator of the Sumerian tablets. The Matrix is an incredible documentary. Keanu Reeves gets it. Another starseed. Yes. Yes. A lot of people love Keanu Reeves, and there's good reason to, I think. But we are dealing with some things that are really, really strange right now. And we knew it was going to happen, and we knew we'd be here. And some people literally can't watch it go down. My friend, I mean, there's a lot of people dying, a huge amount of people dying in a very short window of time, which is exhausting you. You're picking up on that energy. It isn't yours. It's happening because you are empaths, all of you. Or else, you wouldn't be hearing this message. So this is to explain why you're exhausted. And this is also to tell you again, you're going to have to sage. You're going to have to sage. You're going to have to work on your chakras. Like this morning, I worked on my chakras again and again and again until I got it right. I felt a lot of density in my sacral. My sacral and my root chakra. I could feel it. There was darkness. I felt it. Why? Because I hate to say it, but if you look at everything I'm reposting, I'm not reposting, very rarely am I not reposting something on what's going on right now. Because it's important to keep sharing that information. Okay, we need to keep letting people know what's going on. And the agenda is evil. Because if eventually it can happen to us. There was a law that was passed in New York where, I'm just going to say it here actually, where they're allowed to come to your house and take you away if they think you have any type of illness. And then test anything they want on you. And some incredible lawyers, and I'm going to find out more about it, are fighting it. They went to the Supreme Court, got approved, and they're fighting it again. You have to understand there are people who really, really don't get how to be kind, how to be loving, they don't want the new earth that Eckhart Tolle talks about. They don't want that. They don't. Okay? And so we have to understand of our own powers. And that's why they take our collective consciousness, and they use it to program us to actually co-create what they want, not what we want. And now we're splitting away from them, and we have to keep talking to each other and support each other in helping us co-create what we want, not what they want. Again, watch Rhonda Byrne's The Secret. I want you to visually see it because you'll see what I'm talking about. You got to go the full version of her movie, of her documentary, because she shows. They're showing me this cartoon that I'm sure you've seen of these world leaders, and they're sitting on the table, but the people keeping the table up is us, and all we do is have to get up and stand together as one force. And that is a twin flame. This is why so many twin flames have incarnated together, because I hope you realize. Many twin flames. We don't reincarnate together physically in the physical form at the same time. When my husband died, he was in union with his twin on the other side. I've had multiple incarnations without my twin, and I've had multiple incarnations right after making love to my twin when we were first together in union. I remember just having these downloads of past lives we had. It was unreal. It was like unreal. I can't. There's no other words. But we didn't get our agenda. We didn't understand what to do. So we were playing out ridiculous, some scars, and we were on that hamster wheel to nowhere, clearly, or else we would have been twin raised by now. So what's happening is many twin flames, I hope to God, are going to come into union. I hope to God. Because that's when you it's like a lock to a key, and the bolt turns around and opens the door to a new world. And so, but if you can't be in union with your twin, you got to walk it alone. I'm sorry, I'm telling you what it is. And many of you will be in union for your twin, and one of you will die first. So you will have to walk the rest of the path alone. Anyway, right? Does that make sense? So I want to make sure you kind of understand this. Is your twin with you in this life? Yes, he is. What past lives do I remember? Egypt, he was a monk. He was one of these high noble monks. I remember monks, priests, not monks, priests, sorry. priests, and he was into the power of that. It wasn't good. I was an Egyptian concubine. He was Japanese, and again, I was, his person, whatever, his lover. And then I had one in Greece. And there were others, of course. One was in another planet. And it's not, I don't even know what planet it is because we were yellow. We had yellow skin, humanoid-like, white hair, blonde eyebrows, and blonde lashes, and gold eyes. And we were definitely yellow people. And he would go into the jungles. There were jungles with like ylang ylang and jasmine and orchids like flowers, and he would go meditate nude, and I would go find him. And he wanted to find his own, he wanted to understand his own spiritual awakenings on his own, alone. He always broke away from the group, constantly. Another past life, we were like, and again, we were not angels, we were angelic-like. And so I'm going to say, not angels, just clarifying, but angelic-like beings on a high realm, seventh dimension, higher than that actually, ninth actually. I don't know why I said seventh. Sometimes I want to edit it so it doesn't sound, and it wasn't, we were definitely at that point twin rays. That was before we fell into massive, what is the word? Like a loss of complete loss of consciousness. We had a little bit of it in the first incarnations as humans, and then it just went away. And that makes sense, actually, doesn't it? I mean, do you remember what you had? What you had for you? What birthday cake you had when you were 10? If you remember, it's because you have a picture of it. So of course you would forget things. So it was quite something, and I'm not going to go too much into what we had to learn beyond that, because honestly it's kind of personal and we're still working on it, and I don't think people should be so open to openly discuss everything they're going through on which includes another human being, unless the human being is aware of it, and they're like, yeah, thumbs up, do it, share that about us to the world. And I haven't, but this is the most I'll share. But enough with that. Well, what's important is that you find your own downloads, and you don't dilute them with self-doubt, and eventually by dilution forgetting them. It's important to like keep notes of your dreams, your oracle dreams, your lucid dreams, your downloads, your all of that is important. Because at some point you'll be quilting, you don't know it yet, but you're quilting a patchwork quilt. It might be random, an image, something that doesn't make sense at the time, but then, I'm not joking, 5, 10 years, 15 years, you're like, oh fuck yes. You're like, because you wrote it down. Not because you might reread it, but in the act of writing it down, you're letting the universe and your own subconscious mind realize it's important and not to forget it. You know what I mean? And then you start putting it together. Let me see what else. Let me see what you guys are. Right now I'm walking alone because I love myself that much to let him be. Exactly. And you've become transcendental, and you're in love unto yourself. I have to log off the last 2 years. I have a log of the last 2 years. Oh, beautiful. Good. Wonderful. That's great. So any other shares? That's cool. That's good that you've done that. I have journals since I was 17. And I'm shocked at like seeing that young person, who I was then. It was kind of awesome. I'm going to read to you. Do you mind? I'm going to read to you something. I'm being told to read this. Is that okay? I want to know. I'll tell you what it's from. It's a book I've been wanting to read for a long time. It's called The Woman with the Alabaster Jar, Mary of Magdalene and the Holy Grail. Okay? All right. It's telling me what to read, so I'm just going to go with it. And I'm starting from the middle, my friends. Okay, cool. Thank you. But after 10 years of research, into the historical origins of the church's laws regarding priestly celibacy, I finally realized that a serious bias, if not say neurosis, permeated the church's attitude on conjugal intimacy. This bias originated in Gnosticism and Manichaeism, left a resounding message that conjugal intercourse was at best barely tolerable and at worst a sinful perpetuation of evil in the world. Marchand, one of the most persuasive of the Gnostic Christians, allowed baptism and the Eucharist only to virgins, to widows, and to married couples who agreed to refrain from sex. Marcionistes regarded nature as evil, and because they didn't want to fill the earth with more evil, they abstained from marriage. Julius Cassianus, another Gnostic, claimed that men became most like beasts during sexual intercourse and that Jesus had come to the earth to prevent men from copulating. Do you guys see what you and I have had to live under? You guys see what was being said and taught? This is what was happening. This is what we carry today, to this day. And it has impacted our root and sacral chakras. Let me continue. Saint Ambrose regarded marriage as a galling burden and urged anyone contemplating marriage to be mindful of the bondage and servitude of conjugal love. Tatian, through sexual intercourse, was an invention of the devil and felt that the Christian life was unthinkable outside the bonds of virginity. Augustine said that nothing more brought the manly mind down from the heights than a woman's caresses and that joining of the bodies without which one cannot have a wife. Justin Martyr was so suspicious of conjugal intercourse that he could not imagine Mary as sexually conceived Jesus. He argued instead that Mary must have conceived while a virgin. Origen, who believed that Jesus had made a vow of perfect chastity, castrated himself. Did you hear that? Holy shit. This is crazy. And it's funny because in Judaism, rabbis marry. And Jesus was Jewish. When the movie The Last Temptation of Christ came out, there were people picketing like crazy. And all it was Jesus on the cross thinking and fantasizing about what it would have been like to be married to Mary and to have children with her and have life. The book is called The Woman with the Alabaster Jar by Margaret Starbird. Again, it's called The Woman with the Alabaster Jar by Margaret Starbird. Let's continue. So profoundly entrenched was this suspicion of marital intercourse that the church, starting in the 4th century, enacted laws forbidding married priests to have sex with their wives or to father children. When married priests refused to comply with these unchristian and unethical laws, increasingly severe sanctions were imposed, including fines, public beatings, imprisonment, dismissal from the priesthood, invalidation of all priestly marriages, and papal directives ordering the wives and children of priests to be seized as slaves of the church. Do you guys? Wow. 2,000 years of it. Now, do you realize what this would have done to you or me? I'm going to repeat it. Because did you know this? All priestly marriages and papal directiveness ordering the wives and children of priests to be seized as slaves of the church. My awakening to the sexual neurosis in church teachings and laws left me profoundly shaken. Was it possible that these distorted attitudes regarding conjugal intimacy had in some significant way helped to shape the church's teaching on the Holy Family? Could it be that the church's disdain of sexual intercourse has resulted in a delineation of Jesus, Mary, and Joseph that was untrue? What if, in fact, Jesus was not the only child Mary bore? In such a case, would not Mary herself be hurt by being regarded as the virgin mother of an only child? Would this not be the denial of her other children and an affront to the truth of her intimate love for her spouse? Would it not be a tremendous disservice to the Christian faith? It's interesting. Because there's a lot of weird knowledge coming out, including the ability of the divine immaculation, the immaculate births. There are reports of priests, the oracles of Delphi, which were priests, psychic priestess, before patriarchal agendas took over, that there are reports that there were women who were such in a level of spiritual awakening that they could give births without a man. However, that's not the point. The ability to do that doesn't excuse the fact that there was this agenda of shaming and destroying the beautiful connection of the divine feminine and divine masculine in tantric sexual love. The Gospel of Matthew states, while Jesus was still speaking to the people, behold, his mother and his brothers stood outside asking him speak. Mark 3:1. I'm not Christian, on the side note, but I've been chasing Yeshua for a long time. Why? Because I knew that there was something not being said, that there were untruths, and that his life had been bastardized. And so the first book I read about him that really, really resonated with me was a book called Jesus Lived in India. I was 17, and the book was written in the 70s by some German scholar. Jesus Lived in India. And he talks about how Jesus probably didn't die because there were a couple things on the shroud, because the shroud has been debunked and rebunked and unbunked and whatever you want to call it. But there were things that you can't deny. The shroud had pollen and petals and leaves and stems that are only found in Palestine. How can you explain that? Because there's another story that said that the shroud was made in the 15th century in France. Now, that could be true. They could have made a fake one, by the way. But the actual shroud that NASA, Jet Propulsion Laboratory, carbon dated in the 70s, was actually proved as real. Not to mention there was blood and sweat of Yeshua. And corpses don't bleed, nor do they sweat. You could say, well, I mean, there would have been blood from him dying. No, because it would have evaporated in the wind and coagulated. So, it's interesting, isn't it? Shall I continue? This is her forward. I've been waiting for this info to come out too. So, and his mother and his brothers came, and standing outside, they sent him and called him. Luke 8:19 states, then his mother and his brothers came to him, but they could not reach him for the crowd. So he clearly had brothers. Clearly. Mary is not the virgin mother of an only child merely because, I'm going to skip right to that, merely because church teachings say she is. There is truth regarding her progeny and her spousal relationship with Joseph. It is a professing that truth that honors them. If indeed Mary had several sons and daughters, as scriptures apparently attest, then we do her no honor by believing or asserting that she gave birth to only one child and that she died a virgin. Similarly, Yeshua is not celibate merely because the church teaches that he is. There's nothing in scriptures that prove that Jesus was married, nor is there anything in the Bible that says that Jesus was unmarried, nor that he made a promise or vow not to marry. The Jewish scholar Ben Shoren presents a chain of indirect proof to support his belief that Jesus was married in the time Jesus walked the earth. Judaism regarded marriage as a fulfillment of God's command to be fruitful and multiply. It makes sense too. How in the hell are you going to give guidance to people if you're not married yourself? How are you going to talk about marriage and how to be kind to your wife or how to raise your kids if you're not living that experience and you're a virgin yourself? You're a celibate priest. It makes no sense. Like, why would you listen to such a person? Moreover, if Jesus had not been married, he most certainly would have been reproached for his omission by those Pharisees who opposed him. And St. Paul, in presenting reasons for supporting the value of celibacy, would undoubtedly have cited Jesus' own life had Jesus been celibate. But St. Paul did not. Therefore, Ben Shoren concludes Jesus was married. And not to a harlot, but to a woman of a good family. Magdalene, I don't know if you guys know, Mary of Magdalene means she's from the village of Magdalene. That was her village name. It'd be akin to being a girl coming from the Kennedy family. She was your basic hippie chick, came from a good family, that fell in love with the man who was just beautiful soul. And I have a friend of mine who has told me that she's had downloads. Again, none of us are Christian, meaning we're not, religiously. We might be in our Christ consciousness, but we don't follow the religion the way it's been pushed. And she said that she had a download that they fell in love and met at 14, which would make sense. And then they started traveling together with the mother to other parts like Egypt and India and so forth. Thank you. That's what I say. It taught us the way then he had to marry. So true. Exactly why Catholic priests are laughable. How can they give advice to married people? Model the ideal relationship. Exactly. To model the ideal relationship. That's exactly it. And that's why it doesn't make any sense. Half the stuff that we've been taught, we just ate it up. And that's why they had such a problem with the Bible being translated from Latin, Aramaic to Greek to Latin. And from Latin, which was not the language of the common people, you had to be highbred to learn Latin, highborn. And then the Germans came in. I forgot if it was the Germans, the Dutch. Anyway, the Protestants came in saying they wanted to translate to the common people's language, which, why wouldn't you want that? And these people were burned at the stakes, tortured. My God, it's unbelievable, right? So let me finish this little page here. The book is an exploration of the heresy of the Holy Grail and an argument for the restoration of the wife of Jesus based on important circumstantial evidence. It is also a quest for the meaning of the lost bride in the human psyche, in the hope that her return to our paradigm for wholeness will help to heal the wasteland. Did you hear that? Wow. We have, as we've been men and women, right? We were taught certain things about the feminine, that she was dirty, that she was unclean, all of these things, right? Even her period is unclean. Can you imagine that? What the fuck? And here we are, reclaiming all of it back, bringing all the truth. I just ordered the Nag Hammadi, the book, and I've been wanting that book for like 20 years, and finally I was like, screw this, I'm buying this book. And I got it, and I got first edition. I don't want, redone editions. I really don't. I want the original book. But it's in Nag Hammadi, the Dead Sea Scrolls, which were found in 1947. So listen to the rest. In this book, I've recorded the results of my personal search for the lost bride in the Christian story. I've tried to explain how she came to be lost and how devastating that loss has been for Western civilization. Did you hear that? It has. Because they put us in conflict. It put the masculine and the feminine in conflict. I have tried to explain how she came to be lost and how devastating that the loss has been for Western civilization. And I've tried to envision what would happen if the bride were to be restored to the paradigm. The years I've spent researching this material have taken their toll. I did not take the story lightly. I've struggled with the material in this book, wrestling with it to give it form and substance. The labor was both long and difficult. At times I feared it would turn me inside out. Doctrines I had believed on faith had to be uprooted and discarded, and new beliefs had to be sown and allowed to take root. The entire Roman Catholic framework of my childhood had to be dismantled to uncover the dangerous fault in the foundation, and then the belief system carefully rebuilt when the fissures had been sealed. The process has taken 7 years. At some point, I gave up being an apologist for doctrines, and I embarked on a quest for truth. I'm excruciatingly aware that my conclusions are not orthodox, but that does not mean that they are not untrue. She's amazing. Isn't she amazing? Many people are becoming increasingly aware of the chasm between the discoveries of modern Bible scholars and the version of Christianity taught from the pulpit of churches. I hope this book will serve as a bridge that spans this gap. While I was a student at Vanderbilt Divinity School in Nashville, Tennessee in 1988 to 1999, I discovered that many illuminating books written by scripture scholars lie on fallow library shelves for decades without ever being read or noticed, partly because of the dryness of their style and diction. For this reason, I've decided to write in the vernacular. I've concluded footnotes where necessary, but basically I've told the story in a form that can be easily received and digested. By the way, I've been reading this book, and it's very well written. It's very well, you can call it a creative nonfiction is what it is. It's a creative nonfiction, which means it's based on truth, and she made it palatable so that you can read it. Thank you. The church was made to control and conquer. The truth is before that, and somehow it's coming out. It's all coming out. It's all coming out. And what's sad is, I don't know if you know, but the Nag Hammadi was found in the caves of, I think it was Egypt actually. Some goat herder, like a goat went into a cave, and he found these jars with scrolls in them, and he brought them back to his mother, and she, for some crazy reason, was using a lot of the vellums for fire. So a lot of the scriptures were lost, even though, and then for some reason, this person whoever found the scrolls or whatever, talked to this person on the market and said he had these scriptures, and this British man said, let me have them, I'll buy them from you, and he bought the whole set, and that's why we have what we have. But a lot was lost in the fires. And with that said, there's still, because the Essenes were so terrified of because they were being hunted down for writing these true stories, which is the Nag Hammadi, and they found copies of the same Nag Hammadi in different jars in different places, buried or hidden in caves. And so there's hope that we might still come across some of the ones that were burnt. Hopefully, we'll be alive when we see that revealed. Because it'll benefit, but it's crazy, it's just. So this book, again, if you're interested, is it's called The Woman with the Alabaster Jar by Margaret Starbird. And so many of you might have visceral memories of being part of the Essenes. Many of you may have actually been or followed the footsteps of Yeshua. I'm not kidding. And you saw how it was bastardized. So, I mean, don't think that's not possible. I remember my husband was watching the movie The Robe with Richard Burton, and he kept saying, I don't know why I feel like I was one of those Roman soldiers, that I saw him on the cross, and it was weird. Again, we weren't following any Christian beliefs. In fact, it was abhorrent to us. I'm going to be very blunt, because of what had been done under the name. And whenever somebody uses the name of Source, God, to explain anything that's evil, right there, they're not in union with Source, that they are a bastardization of it. So what's happening in the parts of the world, right there, you should know, yeah, that's not cool, that's not real, that's a lie. And those the sad part is that people get away with it, and I think the end of getting away with it has been told in our books, our holy books, that we're supposed to get this or get that or have this, or it's all. I think a lot of people are calling bullshit now because it's been overused, through various religions, by the way. And I'm not saying that one religion is going to solve the problem. I think that we need to just go back to Source, which is meaning understanding our own downloads, our own personal relationship with Source, with God, however you want to name it. And that's really the most important thing your takeaway in this incarnation, is that you can take all these beautiful stories and all these beautiful truths from Buddha. How he became the Buddha is very interesting also. People don't talk about that either. He was a prince in Nepal, and he was protected from seeing death, disease, and old age. and his dad was a very, very powerful king, and he was told by a sage that his son would either become an incredible, powerful sage or an incredible, powerful warrior. And so his father did everything he could to protect him from seeing anything of the real world. So he was kind of like trapped in his own kingdom. And one day, his charioteer took him out and he saw disease. And he asked him, what is disease? And the charioteer explained it to him. The following day, he took Siddhartha out and he saw a man dead. And he said, what is death? And he explained it to him. And then the next thing, he saw a very old man having a hard time walking. And he said, what is this? And he explained to Siddhartha, this is aging. And so Siddhartha, very, very wealthy, from a very powerful royal lineage, could have had anything in the world. He ended up marrying his cousin, and they were madly in love. I would say twin flames, actually. And in fact, there's one story of them making love, and they're so into making love that they don't realize they're rolling off the roof and they're about to fall to their deaths, and instead flowers reach up to them and lower them back to the ground so that they are protected. They never realized that they fell off the roof. That's how passionately in love they were. That was an interesting detail because it showed how in love he was with this woman. There's the story that when she gave birth to his son, he decided that it was time to leave. And so he left. He abandoned his wife and his newborn son to find self-realization. And the story goes that he went through many oppositions in terms of, like, he would like starve himself, and he became, you'll see pictures of Buddha where his rib cage are completely delineated. He looks like he's part of the tree. I mean, he's just emaciated beyond anything. He's suffering. And then he went back and decided to go. And the story goes, and again, I'm paraphrasing really quickly, he developed the concept of the middle way, the balance. And from Siddhartha, he became the Buddha, self-realized. So there, a lot of these stories are real. I totally believe them. And there's a lot of writers that will say, no, it isn't. It's just archetypal from Egypt and Greece and this and that. And I actually don't believe that. I believe that many of our stories will find, many of your own stories you'll find is replicated with someone else from a past life or even in this incarnation. We share certain experiences. We have to, because we have to experience them in our own way. But I know that there were these amazing beings that walked the planet who self-realized, all of us, to teach us. And again, Buddha was born 650 years before, thereabouts, okay, I'm not sure if it's correct, but it's about 600, 500 years before Jesus was born. Okay, so again, we matter. And we have the ability to get to that level of self-realization and to be transcendental. And so when you want your twin to be happy, it isn't because you don't want to be there to be happy with them, and you don't want your twin to choose you. But you know what I'm saying? You are in your transcendental state of loving your twin. There's a movie about Siddhartha with Keanu Reeves. Yeah, the only part that's good is the first part. The rest is shit. And I'll tell you why it's shit. Because it's, and you can tell it's an Italian with a Catholic background that did the movie. The beginning is perfect. It's called Buddha, Little Buddha. And it's perfect. The first part is absolutely perfect. But the rest, where they're finding the souls in 3 bodies, is that possible? Yes, I've said we have multiple incarnations. We can actually have concurrent incarnations, absolutely. But the part of the movie that should have explained it in a more elegant way failed. It failed. It did not explain itself correctly. It did not talk. Even at the end, it could have said, there's reports of people having concurrent incarnations and blah, blah, blah. No, they made it look like it was that soul was split into 3 bodies, and that's just what they did. And it was done very poorly. And I was very frustrated because I think Fonda is in it, and this Chris Isaac is in it too, as the father, and as one of the characters, and it's just not well done. But the Siddhartha part with Keanu Reeves is fantastic. I don't think he knew that it would be, and just remember, he was young. I don't actually report anti-Israel content. I report, I'm not into Zionists. And Zionists aren't Jewish. Zionists, just to be clear, are also Saudi Arabians, just so you're clear. And they're also people who are Christian. Zionism is not anti-anything. And so, I don't know what you want to talk about, but that if you think that doing what they're doing to children and incarcerating children, 5-year-old children into jail, if you think that's okay, then I'm not your person. I'm definitely not your person. And that's okay. I'm struggling with feeling transcendental sometimes and then feeling detached, disconnected. No, transcendental does not mean detached and disconnected. Transcendental means that you accept and you're fully connected, but you're not, disconnection and detached is not the same at all. Any questions on that? I hope I'm clear on that. But to be fair to Keanu, he was a kid. He was I think he was in his late 20s when he did that movie. So there's no way he would have had the wherewithal. And the guy who directed that movie, I forgot his name, was a big honcho. And whatever, and no offense, but Italian directors are known to be somewhat prima donnas. Okay, just letting you know. So I don't think he had a choice. But it's all good. And I'm going to keep posting when I'm posting about what's going on in Palestine, just so you know. And I'm glad that that you noticed. Any ideas on why it feels draining? Because the energy isn't right. It's because their energy is so low, or it's such not a match that's why it's draining. Yeah, and I will keep reposting, and I will keep reposting, and I will keep reposting until they learn how to live together in peace. I'm sorry. I've been watching this shit, just so you know, Sal, because I don't think you know me on that level. I was in France as a 10-year-old, and I was totally involved in that shit. It's why I came to this country, because of the bloodbaths in Paris regarding this conflict, okay? And one of the first books I ever read on the conflict was written, and I wish I've been dying, I can't find that book to save my life, was on a Palestinian girl in the Palestinian PLO army with a Jewish boy, an Israeli boy, who was she was 16 and he was 18, and they were enemies supposedly, and they ended up being in the Sinai desert, and they had to get along, they had to get together, they had to cross the Sinai desert through this through all kinds of tests, and they ended up falling in love with each other. Do you know that people who are Palestinian and Israeli are not allowed to marry anymore? Did you know that? It's kind of like something in the South where, and in this country where black people couldn't marry white people. I'm sorry, but that's not normal. That's not to be accepted by anything. Did you know that, Sal? I'm just wondering. Because if you don't know that, then you should do what you can to educate yourself as to the 70 years. Because I've been on this bullet train to understanding why this was a conflict since 1972. And so I've been on this bullet train. There were two things I saw that year in 1972. Watergate happening, and me at 10 knowing that the America would have a hard time coming out of it, and it was very difficult. And the second was what was going on with Palestine, just so you know. So if it offends you, I'm sorry, but I'm more offended with children dying and being incarcerated than to offend anybody out here. Does that answer your question? Keep posting. There's nothing wrong with anything that you're posting. Thank you. Thank you for reposting. I'm struggling with that part. So I want to thank you because at the end of the day, what's really screwed and what I think we don't understand, there's a thing called Soylent Green. My husband used to talk about Soylent Green, Soylent Green, Soylent Green. I was like, oh my God, I never watched it. It was Charlton Heston. And and I'm going to watch it actually as a homework to myself. Why do they want to annihilate them? Why do you think there will be peace over there? Do you think there will be peace over there, Israel? I'm going to call it Palestine. You know what? I still call Tibet Tibet. And there's my goal is to find a globe that has that is very old, because that's what I want to recognize. There's certain places I still want to recognize. You know what I mean? But I do know that what's been happening is that there's a canal they want to build there, right into Gaza. And there was a young man, an American young man, who looked like Jesus, by the way Jesus is personified, blonde hair, blue eyes, really sweet man with a nose ring. and he showed the map, the ancient map of Israel, that over, and Gaza is no way near the ancient map of Israel. In other words, Gaza was never part of Israel. So this whole fight is ridiculous, because technically, geographically speaking, they have no business even being in Gaza. None at all. Not even historically. Not even that. And I reposted that video as well. So you can scroll through all my videos and you'll see what I repost. I'm trying to repost the humanity and how we are dehumanizing people. I'm also reposting, whenever I see women attacking other women, it freaks me out. I'm like, I can't understand why women would yell and scream and that they should be raped because they stand for Palestine. Like that blows my mind. Like that a woman would wish that upon another woman is like so evil to me. Like I can't even believe it. And they know they're being filmed and they're still. So I'm like, wow, you're being filmed. How bad does it get behind closed door? It must be very bad. So I'm seeing a lot of Gen Xers and millennials who are really being denigrated by news networks in this country and abroad, and calling you guys out. I don't know how many of you are here right now, as if you're crazy, as if there's something wrong with you, and instead of saying you are the most educated, self-educated people in the last maybe two generations. The last generation I saw highly educated that was losing their shit on a war was in Vietnam. Young American kids, 18, 19, that were protesting, highly educated. And there was no social media, so they were reading books, they were reading newspapers. There was, at the time during Vietnam, they were allowing people to watch shit live. I don't know if you guys know that. So you could see what was happening that day in Vietnam, the battles, or at least whatever they wanted you to see. And then once they realized that it was making people rise up against them, right, they stopped allowing it. Okay? So now the difference with what's going on in Gaza, thank God, is that everyone has a phone. And everyone's been having a phone. Vanessa Redgrave, I reposted something. Watch her, Vanessa Redgrave. She was blackballed for going against. She never said anything. In fact, she did a movie about the Holocaust. In that same year, she did a documentary for Palestinian people. And she was blackballed. Not again, the 70s. There was a lot of conscious people in the 70s. They weren't afraid to say shit. But she did get blackballed, just on a side note. So we have to protect TikTok. We have to protect it. Because this is our only way to really talk. Yep, Kent University. That's right. Where did I grow up? Education and survival. Vintage globes and antique stores. Yes, my mom loved Charlton Heston. Lol. A Palestinian one. Why do you want to annihilate them? Why do they want to annihilate them? Oh yeah, and so going back to the reason why you were asking why, because I saw Saudi Arabians who are the elite Saudi Arabians absolutely not doing anything, and that's when it clicked. I went, oh, Zionism isn't a thing. It's not an Israel thing at all. It's a 1% thing. Zionism is that. It has nothing to do with bloodlines or race or religious, beliefs. It's the 1%. They're Zionists. Oh God, I just got it. Okay, and at that point I understood, and so then I started seeing a lot of people talking about the canal they want to build in competition with the Suez Canal in Egypt, and apparently they get something like, I don't know. I really don't know the sum. I'm gonna make it up. Something like $1 billion a year. Okay, that's a lot of money, and it's all going to Egypt, right? So they want to build the canal that goes right through Gaza. And if you notice, they're demolishing. They've got demolition teams already on ground, and I believe they even have. Anyway, And the other thing that they have is a natural resource of oils. But there was something very, very heartening that somebody said. I thought was powerful, because I don't know if you know that, but they also have gone for many decades and decades, burned down or cut down olive trees that are 2 to 3,000 years old. Olive trees that people, get their olives from to make olive oil, olive soap. And I remember seeing this man just sobbing and sobbing and literally trying to save an olive tree. It might have been a 1,000, 2,000 year old. And if you really, really love the land, if you really believe this is your land and you really, really love it, you would never want to cut down a 2,000-year-old olive tree, an olive tree that Jesus may have taken shelter from the sun from. You would never have done that, right? So Zionism isn't the lovers of that. And then you have very Orthodox Jews that live in Israel who are being attacked for standing for Palestine. They're being attacked, they're being spat on, they're being arrested, they're being beat up, it's bad. So there are a lot. So again, just be clear, okay? Zionism is not, and that's why there are some Saudi Arabians, very, very rich, 1%, who are Zionistic. Does that make sense? So that's what we have to look at, and we have to honor our Gen Z. These are our starseed warriors. These are our badass dark empaths that have come in to say you're fucking full of shit. Okay, they've come back to take power back, to make it all right, righting the wrongs, my friend. Judgment is upon us. Judgment in tarot, judgment. It's an awakening. It's uncomfortable, but it's necessary. And so when you ban things and boycott things, and oh my God, I remember when I was 14, I knew that to get, I love tuna fish sandwiches, with mayonnaise and white bread. That was my favorite. I just was in love with that. The minute I found out that dolphins were dying in tuna fishing nets, I had my mom stop buying tuna. And what happened? It took about 7 years. And I would talk about it to my friends at school, and we all boycotted tuna. I kid you not. We all love tuna fish sandwich. That was our favorite thing. And once it was boycotted, guess what they started doing? They started fishing mindfully, and they started putting dolphin safe on the cans. All right? And that was like in the 80s. No, actually, 70s again. 70s when I said, no more tuna. I don't want any of that. Don't bring that home. So we matter. And parts of Gaza are wastelands now. It's wastelands now, but if you look at some of the old 1920s, 1930s pictures of Gaza, it was fucking beautiful. It looked something out of, have you ever seen places like the palaces in Morocco? Algiers? Oh my God, it looked like that. Yves Saint Laurent, the designer Yves Saint Laurent, had a beautiful, what they call a palace in Algiers. Some of those houses in those old photos, you could tell look like that, like beautiful tile work, like gorgeous, just gorgeous, beautiful gardens. I would have loved to live there, but this movement that brainwashes these people to believe that what they're doing is correct. Clearly, they're not successful at brainwashing everybody, because you've got these really true Orthodox Jews who live in Israel who are against it, who have been against it. And then you have them all over the world, joining hands with Arabs and joining hands with other people, Christians and so forth, Buddhists, spiritualists, Wiccans, who are against this, because they know that, at some point we could be if they get away with this shit, they can do that to whoever they want to do that to. And by the way, if you look at Gaza, the way it was set up, it's like a 15-minute city. If you have not heard of 15-minute cities, do your research, look it up. And I love how they sell it. Oh, it's going to be so convenient. Yeah, but you won't be allowed to leave it unless you have a permit. So Gaza was the first 15-minute cities. I realized a lot of the stuff was happening, but I didn't know that they had to have permits to go in and out. And some people had never been out of Gaza. They've been born and will die in Gaza, never going outside of Gaza because of the apartheid levels. And when you have Irish people standing up for Palestine, because the Irish have gone through some similar shit like that, and when you have the South Africans who definitely lived through apartheid, they know what they're talking about. You got to kind of like pay attention to people who've experienced it firsthand, who are saying, yeah, this is it. When you have the UN director step down saying, yeah, this is like classic genocide, and he steps down, he doesn't want to work for the UN anymore, you kind of know there's a problem. Okay? Let me see what you guys are saying. That's the West and East Germany back then, when one would go and come and go. Wow, I'm Irish. We were educated all about it as children. That's beautiful. I love Irish people. There are two tribes of people, or peoples, I shouldn't say tribes, that saved civilization. One was the Arabs, and one was the Irish. And there's a book, if you ever, I hope you've read it, Andromeda. It's called How the Irish Saved Civilization. Incredible book. But also the Arabs saved civilization. They were copying all the ancient Greek philosophies and anything that they could find, including mathematics and so forth. So between the Irish and the Arabs, we have to be grateful. We wouldn't have a clue as to who Cicero and Plato and Socrates were if it wasn't for those two. For real. Sappho, the only reason why we know Sappho, she was a sapphic poet. She was the name Lesbos comes from her. She was a lesbian. So she was born on the Isle of Lesbos. She would write poetry about love, sapphic love, right? Loving a woman. And the only reason why we know she existed is because Cicero would quote her poetry. And that's why if you get her translations by Mary Barnard, they're called Sappho's fragments, because that's all they could find is fragments of her work. A lot of it also was burned by the Catholic Church, let's be honest, because it was love for a woman to a woman. So that's where we have lesbian from Lesbos, lesbian love, sapphic love. It comes from that, from her, Sappho. So what's going on with when I've been very kind of shy with you guys, but since somebody had asked me why I was posting, I'm going to be clear. Look at my reposts. You'll see that they're all about that. They're all about Gaza and the Congo. I have nothing on Sudan. I've not found anything on Sudan, probably because they're so damn poor. They don't have cell phones to record their own tragic realities, to be honest. And but thank God the Gazan people are actually our voices. They are, excuse me, their suffering has exposed the 1%, so that now we know exactly what it's about. And it's not one family, and they're not. And this idea that there's only 5 rich families, yeah, that's another malarkey. I think that it trickles down, and these families need to realize that without it, there's nothing. And I think we're getting there. And it took this horrible, horrific genocide, which I refuse to call a war, because usually war, you got soldiers on either side. I don't know about you, but that's what I've learned, and I've studied ancient history. They're usually, on a battlefield, or they're both sides, they're armed. You know what I'm saying? And they're both more or less on equal footing, more or less. But they're definitely warriors on either side, and that's not what we're seeing. And so repost it. Have people ask you why you're reposting it. Don't be shy. Don't back away from it. Repost it, because it's time we had dialogue that made sense. Okay, because we've been having we're so busy trying to be politically correct that we've lost our spiritual compass. You know what I mean? And you'll find that you'll feel better about your own power, because you'll speak your truth. You'll express who you want what you want to share with the world, and you'll have a lot more Yeah, Catholicism has so much to answer for. Yeah, and you know what? You know, it's the next thing I want. I want the Catholic Church to release all of the scrolls, all of the books they have in those locked in these thermo controlled rooms. I think, and you know that you have to have a papal permission to actually look at those books. Can you imagine? And who's going to look at those books that has an agenda different than the Catholic churches, right? So I want these books to be released to the public. I want it to be released to, say, UNESCO or whoever, where anybody, and I don't mean it like, but it's all facsimile, meaning it's all copied, it's all translated, and it's all released to the public. We have a right to know what's in those books. We have a right. So that's the next thing that needs to come down, is that Catholic Church, the Roman Catholic Church, that library needs to be released to, again, I'm going to say UNESCO, what the hell, and then and let those scholars, French scholars, German scholars, walk in and start translating and putting and just releasing it to the public. It's something we should start demanding. They have no business hiding those scrolls. Those, for all we know, some of those scrolls date back to Cleopatra. You know, they say that the Romans came in, Octavius came in and burned the library. Bullshit. Man was uneducated. He was educated. There's no way in hell he didn't walk in like they did in Baghdad when they took the harp of Ur. You know, the harp of Ur. Yeah. Well, honestly, the Epstein list, I'm starting to realize that it's all connected to what I just said, the 1%. And they're not going to release that list. I'm more interested in what's in those scrolls. Screw that list. I'll tell you what. Who gives a shit? Mostly, you can tell who is speaking out against Palestine is probably not on that list. Let's put it. And those that do either know someone on that list or is on that list. It's really interesting how easy it is to figure it out by who's standing where on what. You know what I'm saying? Like Gerard Butler was one of my favorite actors. He's now on my shit list because he was like raising. So not only did we send them $14 billion, but they raised another 60 million. Why? Why would you raise 60 million when the American government just sent 14 billion? Why would you do that? That's insane to me. Like, what the hell? You're raising money for what? For what? How much money do they need? There was a scene I saw of these soldiers, Zionist soldiers, who are having their hands manicured. I'm like, I can't even. We have female American soldiers here. They're not getting manicured from I don't know, wherever soldiers go to hang out, okay, in America. I'm not seeing anyone getting their nails done. Our female soldiers are quite often in threat of, you know what, right? Of abuses, our female soldiers. So I don't quite understand how we've decided to make it a spa level treatment, but we're going to add more money to that. What I feel is that there's things that we may need to put pressure on the Catholic Church to say, you need to release that library. That library is human history. You have no right to it. It's not a religious thing. It has nothing to do with you. Half the shit in there doesn't expound anything on Yeshua at all. Most of it goes beyond the time of Christianity. Christianity wasn't established until 500 years after his death. That's number one. Number two, there's stuff in there that goes beyond the time. Greek scholars, Egyptian scholars, and we want it, and we want it back, and it's our right. I think that we need to start a movement on that. What do you guys think? I think, because I want to read it. Don't you? Don't you want to see what's been held back in those libraries that are locked and sealed and in controlled settings, so that the temperature is perfect before the shit falls apart, before it's ransacked by the wrong people. Shouldn't we take it to UNESCO or a safe place and take photos of it and copy it and then translate it into the common language of the people? Yeah, I think so too. So I think that's maybe something we need to talk about. If you join our Discord, let's talk about how to start writing letters and starting a movement to open those vaults. Because I think that's the one thing we need. Because, it's great to have movies like Da Vinci Code and what's his name? I forgot his name. Who wrote Da Vinci Code? Took pretty much verbatim from Holy Blood, Holy Grail. The book called Holy Blood, Holy Grail talks about how Jesus didn't die. Talks about in the book Jesus lived in India. He didn't die. And there were all these amazing truths about what the Grail really was. Being Mary of Magdalena. Thank you very much. So Jen just pinned the Discord. Please join it, because we need to talk about how to start that movement. Because I think we've been so hit by COVID, the vaccine, COVID lockdown. Now it's constant. Meanwhile, they're passing this law in New York where, they can grab you out of your home, and it's a real law, by the way. And then there was a press conference in New York that said that they can actually, and they're doing it under the guise of hate speech. I'm like, they're full of shit. But anyway, they have access to anything you have to say in social media. They can actually spy. They made a press conference, so it's not like hearsay. It's not, I heard it from someone. No. The laws where they can grab you from your home is real. And if it's allowed to happen, then it's going to be like a domino effect. And that's what they do in Palestine. They'll come into people's homes, grab your 5-year-old child, and that's what they've been doing, just so you know. And that child is arrested. And it goes right into the system. Okay? 3-year-old child. I saw a child, literally, they were grabbing this 5-year-old and put him in a truck. Another child who was 3, an adult Palestinian man, and a young, probably his brother, came in and stopped, literally, like, they were putting their lives in the line, but they grabbed their kid back and took it away from those men. Those soldiers were taking that kid in. Okay? Now New York is talking about having these weird laws. What in the hell is going on? What in the hell is going on? And that's my question to you, and so that we need to talk about it. Sounds like V for Vendetta. I can't bear what's happening to the children. I can't either. I cannot, but I will not look. That's a dishonor to their death. I saw this a Muslim man saying goodbye to his little girl. She must have been 6, and he was pushing his beard up against her forehead. It must have been what they did together, where he would push his beard up against her head. I could tell he was reacting things that he would have done with her had she been alive, when she was alive. And he was having a really hard time saying goodbye to her. He did not cry. He could not cry. The pain was so deep, he could not cry. But they've been doing this for years. Decades. And whoever spoke against it was called anti-Semite. No, you're anti-Zionist. There's a difference. And there is a difference. An anti-Semite will be ugly and will say things did not exist in the Third Reich, and we all know it did. It all happened. There's just too many. Black soldiers saw it, by the way, just so you know. Black soldiers came upon the ovens and the chambers. White soldiers saw it. There's no denying it. Anybody that denies is a fool. However, that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about anti-Zionism. There's a documentary that's going around of these old Zionists who were part of the Nakba, which is 1948. It was the first culling, genocide, very violent, and they're laughing. I'm not kidding. They're laughing, like bragging. My dad served in World War II. He was in the front lines in the European stage. He never laughed, and he only said the stories once. And if you didn't remember the story he told you about something that had happened, he only said it once and then never again. I only heard 3 of his stories. 3. But he never repeated them. Because when you do things like that and you're a human being, you don't think it's funny. And it was one of those when he couldn't sleep, 3 o'clock in the morning moments, and I couldn't sleep either. And he'd tell me his story. I'd say, tell me what happened in Germany, or tell me what happened. Like, why did you learn German? Like, things like that. And he would tell me. So when I saw these old men who did what happened in the Nakba laugh, the first thing was rage, and then the next thing was, this is going to end, and it ends now. I'm not going to, so I want you to know you are powerful by speaking out against it, by reposting. If you've noticed, I'm not doing any videos on that. I did one video on a Palestinian poetess, and I might do another video to honor more poets. I'm not asking you to like put yourself, but I am saying let's repost this stuff so it doesn't get lost. And some of it I download knowing I won't be there at all, because I'm looking to bring it up to put it together for YouTube. I can bear what's happening to children. I've been trying to get it as a doctor, but the corridors have been bombed. I've been trying to go there as a doctor, but there's no way. The double speak in the UK is something else right now. I hear you. And they've been doing that a long time. But I'm going to tell you something. You guys in the UK and Ireland are badasses. Badasses, man. You guys, and I know this for a fact, because when the US was not showing the news about what was going on during the COVID lockdown, I have a couple friends in England, and they were showing videos on Facebook. You guys were massive, 100,000 of you, fighting the lockdown. You guys were fighting the lockdown. The French went for BlackRock, and they did it for a reason. It had nothing to do because they wanted furniture or nothing. What I like about the French is when they go for that stuff like that, they go for, it's a symbol. It's a symbol. Tantura is the film. Okay. Tantura is the film. I'll look it up. It's on YouTube. I got it. So I'm glad we're talking. I honestly, I want to thank you for being such incredible shamanic warriors. It makes me want to cry. The French know how to honey, the French, I could tell you, when I lived in France, my mom would say, see those cobblestones? I go, yes. She goes, they have been brought up and used as walls for centuries. In other words, when you walk on the cobblestones of France, of Paris, in particular, of Paris, of course, it has history, okay? It has energy. Those rocks have energies. It's like every revolution you can think of, these cobblestones were brought, dug up and used as barricades. I'm not kidding. And this is known. The French know. Yeah, they know how to protest. They don't give a fuck. They don't care. Like, fuck you. Oh, you're going to make me work until I'm 65? Fuck you. It's like, and you're going to do a lockdown again? Fuck you. It's like, they won't. I lived in Paris with my ex for 3 months. Yeah, it's not easy to live there for very long. And I remember when I lived in London when I was a kid, I remember my mom said, we're not going to have mail for a long time. They're having a postal strike. And honestly, I grew up with strikes all over the place when I was a kid in Europe, and honestly, I support it. Like, I don't mind my mail being late 3 weeks if there's a reason behind it. Okay? But not because people are, in the States, the mail for a while was like late. What should have taken 3 days was taking like damn near 10 days. And they were claiming it was a COVID lock. It was bullshit. It had been gone a while. It was bullshit. When somebody says we have a strike, I'm like, okay, you got it, So, but when we Irish, particularly from Belfast, mostly know how to write. I hear you. What? And have a Guinness on me. Why? I know. I tell my twin is Irish. He's Irish on both sides of the family, 2 generations or 3, right? And I tell him, you know nothing about your people. What's wrong with you? So it's funny. Yeah, there's a personality that I love about, and it's irreverence. It's really interesting. It's a can-do attitude. I remember they called her Bloody Mary, the Prime Minister. I forgot Thatcher. The first time I really understood the Irish like intensity was when I came across these men who had been arrested. Right, they were part of the Irish Liberation Army, I believe. If I'm wrong, correct me. But anyway, they fasted. They fasted. Do you remember? And they fasted until they died. They would not stop. They fasted until they died. And Margaret Thatcher didn't give one fuck. That's why she was known as Bloody Mary. Sometimes female leaders are no better than males if they are in their masculine energies. The only time we're going to be better as leaders, as women, is if we stay in our feminine energies. Anyway, any other shares? I love that we're talking about. I feel so happy that we can talk about it. The hunger strikes in 1998 I was 4 and I remember it vividly. Wow. The hunger strikes in 1981. I was 4 and I remember it vividly. So do I. I couldn't believe the presence, the passion, the willingness to say, on this platform, on this, I die. I love these lives. I always check for them. Oh, thank you. I remember it too. Soul healing. There was something. Even though you were 4 and I was a teenage girl, it hit me like I never. And as it was happening, I was like going, why don't they do something? Why doesn't she? Why doesn't she stop? She could just stop what she's doing and just say, okay. But she was such an evil woman. Evil woman. A Zionist. A Zionist. I will call evil people moving forward Zionists, because they are. Because kind people aren't that. And we have to make sure to protect our Jewish brothers and sisters. We have to make sure. Because we cannot confuse the two. That cannot be confused. Because the Saudi Arabians, there's some elite Saudi Arabians sitting on their hands. They don't give one fuck. They don't. Because they're all about that canal and the oil. So let's not get those two mixed up, okay? They're Zionist, and that's it. And they take on every race, every background, everything, every religion. It's really, really important that we get this. And we need to educate our brothers and sisters who are confused by it. Because some people are tripping over themselves, not realizing there's a difference. There is a difference. They have been arresting people with kafai in Saudi. Honey, they have been arresting men in Mecca, praying for the release and the safety of their brothers and sisters in Palestine. They have been doing their prayers. There's certain names that they use, and I don't know what they are. But anyway, they're standing there aloud. Apparently, when you pray, you have to do your prayer out loud, again, I guess. And so they're in Mecca. And they're praying for not for revolution, not for bloodshed, no, for peace, and for that their brothers and sisters in Palestine be safe. And they're being shackled. I'm not joking. Fucking shackled. So again, Zionism. Zionism. Okay, so now we know, right? It shocked me. And it was like a light bulb moment for me. I went, holy fuck, this is amazing. Now we know who they are. Now we know what they've been doing for the last 150 years. Does that make sense? And more so beyond that point, way, way beyond. But now we have a term to call them rather than the one, and they are. Zionism equals 1%. It's a no-brainer. You don't have to look and see, well, which families could it be? The Rockefellers could be. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't. They're all part of it. They're even if they're one's making $6 trillion and the other one's got $10 billion, right? It's his boy. It's his, I guess you could call him the bitch to the 1%, the 1.25%, whatever the fuck it is. But ultimately, all we have to do is call him Zionist. And that's it. And make sure, and I'm really asking you, make sure you educate those people so they don't confuse Judaism and real Jews with Zionism, please, because we want our Jewish brothers and sisters to be safe and to be protected and for people not to harm them, okay? Because that's been my fear. I'm like, this is bad. Okay? The Zionist book says it all. Oh, I didn't know there was a book. Wow. Amen. Yeah, we have to. This is not okay? That's our duty. I need to educate myself first. I didn't even know about this. Well, you don't need to educate yourself. Just look at my reposts and read any paper from France. Try not to, no offense, don't read the American papers. I'm going to just be straight up with you guys, okay? Because it's filled with Zionism. So go ahead and read the French papers. We have multiple parties. We have all kinds of parties, okay? From Le Canal, Le Monde is left. There's all kinds, okay? Also, read other people's stuff. Read people's blogs. The new journalist today is not a journalist that's employed for the most part. For the most part, the new journalist is you and I. Okay. Yes, I found it on accident a long time ago. That's really cool. Shit. So it's called the Zionist book. Okay. So yeah, that's what we need to do as people. Protect all of us who are not Zionists, and that's clearly, you know, who you are, and protect, make sure that we kind of understand what's happening, because that whole Mecca thing shocked the hell out of me. It didn't happen once. It happened like 3 times that I saw. And again, these guys have cell phones with a camera. It's recorded. It's not a hearsay. Not sure. I'll look for it and send it to you. Thank you. I would like that. But my twin's been talking about Zionism for a long time. And so did my dad. But I think there was some, honestly, I think there was some corrupt energies to that. And now I think it's really clear. We have to speak up for humanity. It's our job as light workers. It is. It is our job. It's our duty. We have to. So there's been a lot of bastardization on all kinds of belief system, on denigrating the divine feminine, on bringing her down to the level of a harlot. And by the way, I don't disrespect harlots, you know, concubines, courtesans. I have no disrespect at all. But in fact, I think sex workers have a place, and have always had a place in history. So don't get me wrong when I say that, okay? However, when you know that someone wasn't that, and you lie about her, it's kind of like in high school when somebody was thought of as loose, a girl usually, of course, it would always be a girl, and she got the reputation that she was loose, and it was a lie. It was a complete lie. It was just to shame her and denigrate her. Yeah, it's kind of like that. That's not okay. Is Ashura Mazda relevant to TF? I don't know. I don't know who's Ashura Mazda, to be honest with you. Ashura Mazda, tell me more. Tell me more about what you think that is. I'll do a screenshot. I'll see if I can remember to do it. All right, so listen, I'm going to go. But I want to thank you all for being so beautiful in your humanity, in your ability to see what is wrong and evil and what is good. And let's seriously look at calling the Catholic Church and asking them to release those scrolls to UNESCO. Or, you know what I mean? This was amazing. Thank you. Thank you, Tony. Absolutely. It was a pleasure. And I'm glad that we're finally talking as friends. Because now we're really co-creating something beautiful and true and powerful. And so when I will do a live on Discord so we can talk more about what to do and planning about the Catholic Church, because they do. I don't know about you, but every time I see those vaults in a documentary, I'm salivating. I want to know what's in those ancient books and scrolls. I want to know. It's my right to know. It's your right to know. It's our children's right to know. It doesn't belong to them. It's not theirs to keep. How dare they? It's ours. And we need to start moving, because that... And we have to do it in such a way so they can't edit or burn or destroy what they don't want the world to know. We have to protect our own. Exactly. So I'm going to put this on YouTube. Hopefully it'll stay up. You never know with YouTube. Thank you very much, all of you. Thank you for being here. All right, so I'll upload this to YouTube, and I want to send you so much love. I'll probably do another live tomorrow. And I want to thank you all. And please repost whatever you see and that is wrong, evil, genocidal. Just repost it. That's the one thing you can do. And if it makes your friends, your family members uncomfortable, good. Have a conversation. And I mean a conversation, not a yelling match. A conversation. And if they can't have a conversation without being triggered and yelling, then you kind of know what the problem is, don't you? And it's not you. All right. Sending you much love on your journey. Namaste.